Hi, I'm Scott Hadley with TrekOblog.com. I want to take a few minutes to describe two really awesome ways to release two important muscle groups. One, the quadriceps, and two, the hip abductors and rotators. These two muscle groups get used a lot when we run. The quadriceps contract every time we land to control our knee flexion. They prevent our knee from buckling. The hip abductors function about the same time the quads do every time we land. Let me just demonstrate that quickly on this picnic table as best I can. As the foot lands, the quadriceps contract to prevent the knee from driving too far into the ground. That's pretty obvious. So they get a lot of work every time we take a step. Every time we land, they contract. That's why the quads get sore when we're running. What's a little less obvious is the function of the hip abductor muscles, which are on the lateral side of the hip. The hip abductors, along with muscles that are a little bit more posterior called the hip rotators, these muscles contract also eccentrically, which means that they're lengthening while they're contracting to control motion. And they do so because every time we land, the forces of gravity tend to drive the knee inward. It's just the way our bodies are designed. The structure of the hip is such that when the foot hits the ground and the knee starts to bend, gravity tends to pull the knee inward. The hip abductors and rotators of the hip prevent that. They allow the knee to be maintained right over in line with the foot. Now, you've probably seen runners before where they're landing and their knee is driving inward. It's probably because their hip abductor and rotator muscles have either become inhibited or they're weak. What I'm going to show you in this video is an alternative method to release the hip abductors and the quadriceps. In the last video I showed how to use the rolling pin. Hey, how's it going? I don't know those people. I must look goofy. Anyway, so in the last video I talked about how to use a rolling pin for your quads and the hip. Not everybody has a rolling pin, and sometimes the rolling pin isn't the most effective way to relax the hip, especially the hip. So in this video I want to show you how to use a softball or a baseball or a tennis ball, whatever you have available, to release these muscles in the side of the hip that constantly get overused when we run. By relaxing these muscles, the stretch reflexes to the muscles are restored, and the hip actually functions a lot better. And if you're having any lateral hip pain, this type of release will probably resolve it. So let me demonstrate the hip release first using the ball, and then I'll talk about the quad roll using a stainless steel water bottle. A few landmarks that you should be aware of. First, on the lateral side of the hip, if you feel this large bony prominence at the top of the thigh, that's called the greater trochanter. The greater trochanter is where the rotators and the abductors attach. Their upper attachment is along the pelvis at various places. So what we're going to focus on is getting the ball right between the crest of the pelvis and the greater trochanter. And the ball will basically roll from about the midline of the body here back around the trochanter. So it takes a little bit of practice to get the right motion and a little bit of trial and error, but once you try it, you'll feel the muscles that need to work. So the easiest way to do this is to just sit down on a fairly firm surface where the ball can roll and place the ball just above the trochanter, like so, between the trochanter and the crest of the pelvis. And then you can roll your body weight over onto it. Now, key here is actually letting this leg relax down toward the table. That shortens the muscles, and in a relaxed position, if they're short, the ball will penetrate better. And then it's just a matter of rolling around the greater trochanter and finding the spots that are the most sore. And there's mine right there. So once you find that spot, just hang out there. And roll around. Now, this is where these muscles are in a shortened position. in a relaxed position. You can lengthen them a bit by bringing the knee upward, and that actually will tighten the muscle. Not that it's contracting, it just pulls it into a more taut position. And then you can do the release with the muscles in a more taut position also. And that really digs in deeply. You should do it with the leg down toward the ground first, with the muscles in a short position, and then you can try it with the muscles in a lengthened position. And I'm bearing probably 50% of my body weight through my hip right now. If your muscles are really sore, you'll probably use a little less pressure, or a softer ball, maybe like a tennis ball initially, and then graduate to something bigger or harder. So maybe don't try this on a picnic table. Try it on something that's not going to roll you around. Okay, so this is my water bottle. I have it filled with cold water right now because it feels really good on tight muscles. Especially after a run, if you fill your water bottle with cold water, it feels great. There's been some research that shows that the thermal effects of cold after a workout actually make the recovery faster. So you can speed your recovery up along by filling your water bottle with cold water. And then the effects of rolling all by themselves increase recovery as well, reducing the time for recovery. So you've probably seen this one before demonstrated on a foam roller, where you can't really see it, but my thigh is pretty much in line with my trunk in this plane. The knee is slightly bent just for my own balance. Now, we can take the water bottle and put it right underneath the lateral side of the thigh, the vastus lateralis, and roll back and forth. If you've got IT band issues, this will hurt. But it also provides a nice deep myofascial release to the vastus lateralis, which is usually the source of IT band pain, since the IT band doesn't actually have pain receptors. The pain from IT band syndrome is usually coming from the vastus lateralis muscle. So, just rolling the entire length of the vastus lateralis. You can shift your body weight around and roll more in the front of the thigh. That works pretty well too. It's a little more awkward, but you can really get the rectus femoris and other portions of the vastus lateralis as well. The vastus medialis, an alternate technique for relaxing the muscle, is one of the ones that I typically will use, is just my elbow. You can just, the skin over the elbow moves quite a bit. There's a nice big bursa there that allows the skin to roll over the bone. And you can take the elbow and just place it over the vastus medialis and run the length of the fibers. The fibers run from the lateral side, or the medial side of the knee, up toward the midline of the femur in kind of a teardrop shape. So you can really go the entire extent of the vastus medialis. I'm using my opposite hand here to create some more leverage through my forearm. And I'm just working my way all the way down the length of the muscle. You'll probably find some tight, painful areas called trigger points. And you can use the tip of your elbow if you want to kind of do a circular motion over those trigger points. And you can also use your elbow for the vastus lateralis as well, if you want to. Body weight works a little more effectively for the vastus lateralis. Alright, so there are a couple alternative methods to release your quads and your hips. If you do those before and after you run, I think you'll find your stride is more smooth, your recovery times will be faster, and you'll just have a generally better run. Incorporate the calf rolling into this routine as well, which is what the last video post was about. So check out the last video post and incorporate these as alternative methods for release. That's it. Be sure to check out trecoblog.com and enter any questions that you might have in the comments section. Thanks a lot. I'm Scott Hadley.